Well, hello everyone. You have right here. I'm talking about why feedback matters whenever it comes to playing, games. Whenever it comes to playing video games and stuff. But you have right here is this, Grand Theft Auto Vice City here. Some screenshots I took during gameplay right here. Using a telescopic sight with the sniper rifle, and you see this right here, showing them with the helicopter right here. And I'll tell you one thing, everybody, that this was nearly 20 years ago, but writing to the guy at Take Two Tech Support right here. But you see this right here, where it shows right here of a pilot coming in the. I don't really know if it's coming from the east or from the west or whichever, but you got a couple of these screenshots I took right here of the helicopter right here. And one thing I noticed, if you look really closely, and I know a lot of software developers would say, is as to where they did not look really closely at any Easter eggs or glitches or anything like that, but still, why the helicopter pilot is not visible right here. And you see this right here is that the scene of the sunlight right there, but the guy pretty much told us is that there's got to be so much sunlight reflecting onto the helicopter right here to where why you can't see the pilot in there. If you zoomed in really closely and you're wondering that, hey, there's got to be too much sunlight coming in to the glass or something like that. How's that even possible? There's too much sunlight coming in, to the glass right there. It's got to be one-way glass or something like that. But still, that if you zoomed in really closely right there, but you see this right here, and but you got there's the screenshot of the rain right there, and you have this other scene right here of the side of the helicopter right here, and everybody might even say is that yeah you're trying to look for the guy in there, and but still that you see the details right here during gameplay right here, and all that pretty much looks all realistic right there, but you're warned to where they yeah yeah, that looks pretty realistic with the propeller and all that, and but still, that I would think is to where they have good graphics is how come that we can't see the people, we can't see the guys in there, but in this next picture right here of shown right here is that you got there's a close up right there, but here's another close up right here, and you can't see anybody in the helicopter right there. I guess what direction would that be facing? If that will be facing towards the north or something like the south or something like that. But still, that if you were to look closely right there, that the helicopter pilot is not visible at all during these clips right here. So you want to know too is that why isn't the helicopter pilot visible in any of these clips right here? You put all the detail into this to the graph. You have VC Police Department right here, and so yeah, so during the whole gameplay right here, that you see this right here is that they put all these details right here for the developing of the game, but they just not include the pilot in there, and you don't see anybody, riding the helicopter. You don't see anybody boarding the helicopter, but you don't see anybody flying the helicopter. So that was one of our questions about the feedback is toward how come we can't see anybody in there? It's an empty cockpit right here. There's nobody there, and so that's why it seems that way. To where look at that, and then here's another shot right here. You see right there, there is nobody there. There's nobody flying a helicopter, and I would like to know that why is it that you know for 20 years Rockstar Games really never gave us a clear answer to where that we can't see. There's nobody there. There's nobody in the helicopter. There's nobody flying the helicopter there. Who's flying the helicopter? I would like to know that who's flying that helicopter there. And so whenever you look at the helicopter, you're thinking as to where yeah, that's the type of stuff that you would see if maybe if it was like any sort of model, like if you were looking at a model or something like that, but you can't see you can't see the pilot, and it says is that oh there's got to be one-way glass inside the helicopter. No, there is not no one-way glass inside the helicopter. I'm looking at that very closely, and he is not there. The pilot is not there. he is not there. What you actually see right here is a model right here. And everybody might say is that, yeah, it's an empty cockpit right there. You'll look at that right there. So you try to look right there, and then here's another screenshot right here. You don't see a pilot in there. You see that right there? Like, and yeah, the helicopter is tilting and rocking back and forth side by side or whichever, but you don't see a pilot in there. He is not there. There is no pilot visible in there. So, in case of anybody's worries as to where yeah, why do we think that feedback is so important whenever it comes to gameplay? That you enjoyed playing the game overall, but still that you can't see the pilot. The pilot, he is not there. So it sure seems that way. That yeah, there's a rope that comes down from the helicopter for sure, but that there is no pilot there. He is not visible there. And right here, and then here's another shot right here, and still there is no pilot in there. The pilot. It's an empty cockpit right there. Oh yeah, you can see the controls. I'm like, yeah, the details of from oh, okay, whenever you're able to fly the helicopter, this is what you look forward to whenever it comes to being able to fly the helicopter right here. But you don't see, there is no pilot in there. So in case of anybody were to ask me that yeah, how important is it that you see a pilot visible? Here's me, staying on top of the helicopter right here during gameplay right here. But still, with these screenshots right here, and you're warned toward it, the why is it to not see a single one, not a single photo of where you see a helicopter pilot visible, even during the missions. So I'm talking about, nearly 20 years ago, when we were playing the game, and your Warren 02 is that, yeah, well, the graphics are all right. You're able to fly the helicopter, but still, you can't see. There is no visible pilot in there, and so that's another reason why that I was just thinking too. That but still, here's another shot right here, and you're warned toward it. Hey, that why isn't the helicopter pilot visible? During the gameplay. So those are a couple of shots that I got right there. But anyway, talking about understanding about during gameplay, right? That that there is no pilot visible during gameplay. Anyway, so even if you were to stare at this image all day long, you're not going to find a pilot in there. So I know knowing about Rockstar Games that with their graphics to improve in 102, if they're going to take the time to go and program it to where that the pilot is visible, and people might say, "Yo, you must have the wrong version of the game." No, I I got different versions of the game, but like you said, that look at these screenshots right here in your warns as to where yeah, why is it that we can't see the guy in the helicopter right there? Well, maybe because the fact is that yeah, you played the game long enough to where exactly what you see. I'm about to say it's been 20 years since this game Vice City came out, and I tell you one thing that I had never seen a pilot visible during the during portion of the game right here. I'll tell everybody that I had not seen a pilot visible right there. It's a completely empty cockpit right there. And so in case if he were to ask me, that is that yeah, you look at the game and then you look forward to be able to fly the helicopter, but still that you want to know too, what's that all about? Where you can't see you can't see the pilot in the helicopter. Well, there's got to be one-way glass inside the helicopter where it cuts down glare for the pilot. Well, how's that possible? This is not one-way glass. Why didn't you just put one-way glass inside there, so that way we would think as to where there's one-way glass so you can't see inside the helicopter, period. Why didn't you put one-way glass inside there instead of just seconds? Oh, there's got to be one-way glass inside there. that is not no one-way glass. You know, that's the type of stuff that you see in the model aircrafts. But still, but talking about understanding about, you stare at it all day, and yeah, that there is nobody. It's an empty cockpit right there. People might even tell you is that yeah, they put all the trying to make the graphics real good and detail in the game right there, but still, you still can't see them. Even though if the helicopter's spinning and maybe if it's flying or whichever, and you still can't see them. And so that is why it seems that way, to where whenever you look at these right here and you're warned to where hey, then we didn't bother to put all that detail, into the development of the game. But still, that way I think about whenever I look at some of these and you play the game and you're warned to where hey, that you're able to fly the helicopter, but come on, you would always want to know too that whenever you're trying to spot, you zoom in, and you can't see that see the guy in the helicopter, and you're want to know too is that yeah, well, why not? Why didn't you just put one-way glass in there to begin with? As I say, is to where okay, yeah, well, the reason why you can't see them is because of the fact that because yeah, and matter of fact, is that way I think about it, that whenever you do play the game, that you're thinking is to where you look forward to being able to fly the helicopter, but still, that I would like to know too is that you look at that and you're thinking is to where that yeah, did you have fun playing the game overall? Like, and yeah, but I still wonder a little bit about that, about you know uh, in order for this game to be rated for good graphics, I would have said is to what I would have asked to please make the helicopter pilot visible, for future releases of the game, to make the helicopter pilot visible. But other than that, whenever we talk about the playing the game of GTA Vice City,